Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, welcome back for another video. Today we're going to be touching on Daryl Dixon Season 2, Episode 1. All the episodes are titled in French, but this translates to The Kindness of Stranger. And as I'm very excited that this world is back, and we're recovering from probably one of the longest breaks we've had in between Walking Dead content, and glad to see Daryl and Carol back and just see the new adventure that they're going on, this episode was a little slow, a little lackluster, and just... I am not too crazy about how certain aspects of the episode or certain aspects of the story itself are being kind of pushed forward, and what they're doing with convenience as far as Madame Genet and how Carol makes the trip in the first place, and just there's little things I didn't like about it. I'm glad to see the characters back. I'm glad to see this world back. But with that being said, this was not the best episode in the world. And I had done a video previously about early reviews, and I can kind of see where some of those disappointing or negative reviews were coming from, because it just, I don't know, maybe it felt a little forced, and it just, some of it didn't make sense, and we're being set up for other things that may never even come to fruition, and it's just, I don't know. But getting straight into the episode, it starts off, we get that continuation of the first 10 minutes that we got the sneak peek of, a few months ago when trailers for everything dropped at Comic-Con. And so we get this opening scene with Daryl and Laurent. Daryl's training Laurent how to defend himself. And Lo Sang, he just kind of got this overlooming presence where he sends someone out to fetch Laurent. And later in the episode, as him and Daryl are kind of getting to know each other a little bit more, I think, and Daryl's seeing how he runs things is not what's best for the people there. And just his attitude towards Laurent and the way Daryl does things, because they have a conversation. Because as we come to know, Falou and a handful of others were picked up by Madame Genet's people. And so Daryl's like, well, we got to go get them. There's no leaving people behind, that kind of attitude. And Lo Sang's just very standoffish, very like, we'll see what we can do, basically. And just his attitude towards it is not what you would call favorable, as far as Daryl's attitude towards that family dynamic that he had with everyone back home, and just the attitude he has in general, that you don't leave people behind. You fight for what you believe in sometimes. Sometimes, as Daryl said, you have to be willing to throw the first punch, and that's just not Lo Sang's kind of philosophy, I guess. Even though he seems to be someone that can defend himself, he's very strong-spoken and whatnot, but he has this overwhelming or just kind of annoying confidence in the prophecy that surrounds Laurent. And we got this other woman that's kind of whispering in his ear too, and I don't think we got her name yet, but I don't particularly like that woman either. And so as the episode goes on in this first little bits, we have these conversations going on between Daryl and Lo Sang, and just we can see where they're going to build up to a conflict. That is just my prediction for those two characters, where Daryl does not agree with the way Lo Sang does things, and Lo Sang just has this attitude like he is all about protecting Laurent, kind of the hell with everybody else, and he's going to make sure this prophecy that they, for whatever reason, believe in, they're going to make sure this kid fulfills it. And so they make up a plan to go get these people, and this is where we see that ambush scene. And here's where some of the convenience kind of comes in to, I guess, for the sake of the story, is to push it forward. And this is also where some of that conflict I'm talking about is building up, because at first Lo Sang's like, well, we don't want to take a violent approach to it. And Daryl's like, well, you sometimes have to. You don't have a choice. And so he kind of, I think, begrudgingly lets Daryl go along with the plan, lets him go along with these people to fetch them if they can, and they have this whole ambush set up, but it doesn't go according to plan. And at first this group's like, well, it didn't go, so we have to bail. And Daryl's just not having it, and he's going to step in, and this is where we see him shoot up Madame Genet's caravan that she has. This is where he flips the car, and they rescue these people, and he has Madame Genet in his sights. He's ready to take her out, and of course this failed explosive from early in the plan goes off. And this is where Madame Genet makes this miraculous disappearing act escape, and it's kind of weird. It feels weird as far as the story's concerned, because Daryl, he looks away from no more than a few seconds as he's kind of blindsided by this explosion, turns around, Madame Genet is just gone. And I don't understand that a little bit. It's like, you can't check up the road or behind some cars or something, but to each their own, and just for the sake of the story, he just kind of dismisses it and goes on. And that's really the last we see of Daryl as far as within the episode. A big bulk of the episode is focused on Carol, reintroducing her and establishing Ash as a character, because we see Carol, as we saw in the sneak peeks, go to that camp and confront these people. Where's my friend? Where did you send him? And they tell her quite easily, which is surprising. They don't really put up a fight. She snatches up that crossbow. She shoots one in the foot. She butts another one in the mouth. And she's getting ready to kind of take more action, I guess, in this situation than the guy that's working on that car. He throws a wrench and deflects an arrow that then goes into the tire of the dirt bike, rendering the dirt bike useless. And so Carol takes yet another kind of convenient thing, which is one of these guys' cars that is all gassed up, ready to go. She takes off, and this is after she's found out Daryl's in France, and she goes to check out this boat ramp or whatever, this boating yard, where she was told by these other guys that this is where that boat came in. And it's just nothing but a boat graveyard. And she's kind of in this moment where she's lost all hope. She's driving around. She's flipping cassette tapes in and out of the deck, just not satisfied, throwing them out the window. Then at one point, one gets stuck. She gets distracted trying to get it out. And this is where we see Ash's plane for the first time. It's flying over, kind of a very convenient answer to her prayers. He flies over. She's watching him. This is where she hits that walker, gets into a wreck. And she tracks him back to his place because, again, conveniently, as she's watching him, this is him coming in for a landing because she sees his landing gear come down. She tracks him back to his house, kind of snoops around a little bit. She kind of sees an opportunity. This trap that he has set up that is kind of to defend the perimeter, she sets it to make it look like she was trapped by this thing. This is where they meet, and she begins kind of this trend of deception. And I don't like it as far as what she does to kind of trick him into helping her. And it's just, I know it's all about making the story go forward, and she just is having this moment where she's very, very afraid to open up, I think, because he does agree to let her stay there for the night. And this is where kind of that barn flashback comes up, because he lets her stay in the barn because there's a nice built-up room in the back of the barn where it's got a bed and all this stuff. And it's when she's approaching the barn, this is when she flashes back. Nothing more than the barn sets off this flashback of Sophia and what happened to her, and just, I think Carol really kind of realizing that she never dealt with it. And so she stays in the barn, and the next morning she is talking to Ash as he has let himself back in, and he kind of, notices it's a time on his watch. He dismisses himself, and she sees him go into the greenhouse. And the greenhouse was another building that will kind of come into play. And Ash has made it a habit to just take random plane rides. This is his way to escape, because he is up above the world, so he can kind of pretend that the world is still as it was. So Carol takes this opportunity, because his generator system is not 100% capable, I guess. And it does fluctuate as far as being turned on and turned off, and sometimes it'll just flat out fail. Well, this is one of those moments where it fails. She goes into that greenhouse to see what maybe he's possibly hiding, and it's a memorial to his son, who he also lost when he was a child. So this is kind of triggering to Carol a little bit more, kind of feeding on what she had as far as she went through something similar, and she thinks that maybe she can kind of bond with him over this. And this is where walkers have made their way onto the property. They break in, they destroy that greenhouse, and Ash comes in to save her at the last second. Rightfully so. He's pissed that she is snooping around, and now he has this mess to clean up, and this sanctuary of sorts where he could go and mourn his son or just remember him has been violated. And so she feels guilty. She helps him clean it up and says, I'll just go after I get all this taken care of. And he, I guess, kind of feels bad for the way he spoke to her. They have dinner. And this is where I thought that they would bond over the fact that they lost Sophia, because it does come up about his son, and he is sharing with her and opening up. And I thought maybe she would be like, hey, I had a kid too that I lost at the beginning of all this. But she makes up this lie about Ed, who we all know was a piece of shit, had taken her daughter to go visit a family member over in Europe, and it was right at the beginning of everything, and this is where they lost track, and she could not get a hold of her, and she's just been kind of living with the fact that she's gone, with this whole thing that she's over there, she might still be alive, she might not, and this is where she kind of manipulates him into using his plane to take her over there, and so far she has not come clean, and I don't think she will until he's on his deathbed. I think that he will get himself hurt and it will result in his death. So I don't think we'll see him past a couple of episodes. And it's just, that part really kind of irked me. I was really hoping they would take that opportunity to bond over something that they had both been through, but yet she lies to him to get him on this plane and to get them out of there. And then we flash forward back over to France, where Daryl is having his whole thing. We're just kind of having some mysterious / manipulative kind of behavior going on in the background with Lo Sang. Because as I mentioned, Lo Sang very much for making sure Laurent fills out these prophecies and is just convinced this kid is the second coming. And that is going to be a point of conflict between him and Daryl, because Daryl, I think, is going to become very protective of Laurent. And him and Isabel are having conversations about maybe he should take them back to America, maybe he doesn't belong there, and just a very uncertain kind of thing with them right now. And all in all, the episode was okay, but it was very slow. There were parts of it I didn't like, and it was very lackluster for being the season premiere. And it just, I don't know, it leads me to believe that the build up to what is supposed to be the best 1 hour Walking Dead anything ever, I'm not 100% sold on that. I don't think that's going to happen. And I mean, it really has to, for the sake of saving this universe, because as someone who's been following it since the beginning, I'm just not 100% sold that it's ever going to be what it was, because there's just been a lot of people complaining about the universe just kind of dying down, the hype and the excitement and everything behind it just kind of dying down. And I really think we're getting to that point where it's not as good as it used to be. But I am still going to stick with it, obviously, because I want to see how this story plays out. And hopefully down the road, we get some sort of payout for sticking by the show side, or sticking by this universe's side, being loyal and whatnot. But all in all, the episode, I'd say I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10. I mean, it's kind of right there in the middle. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible either. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the review. If you enjoy this type of content, please be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, consider subscribing. I would really appreciate it. And come back for more Daryl Dixon review videos. And I will also follow up this video with a breakdown of the kind of the season layout that we got at the end of this episode. So until next time, guys, take care. Bye.